Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Tyrus Sturgis. I'm Chief Officer of Engagement for the Heritage Foundation of Williamson County, Tennessee, and I'm honored to look out and see this array of faces this morning. You know, we're beautiful and diverse faces in here, but there are some commonalities that we share. And one of those things is when we receive something of value, when we receive something that we love, there are normally two things that we do with it. We preserve it and we share it. Like Grandma's secret recipe. Every year she shares that sweet potato pie with everybody, wants everybody to taste it, but you're never gonna get your hands on that old wrinkled piece of paper. Never. You give a puppy a new toy and he runs around with it, lies down, chews it up, even brings it to you to play with, to share. But after that, he takes that toy and puts it in your favorite plant to keep it safe, to preserve it. And even in everyday activity, we get our phones and somebody sends you a little TikTok or something on Facebook, and what do? Oh, I'm saving this for later, but why do you save it? Why do you preserve it? To share it. Sometimes we just immediately press that share button. And that's why I'm so honored to be here today, to share and preserve the stories of Williamson County's Black history legends. It's only fitting that we share this on Black History Month because Franklin history is Black history, Williamson County history is Black history, United States history is Black history. So thank you for joining me as we celebrate the stories, the contributions, and the achievements of these Black history legends. Now, before further ado, I do want to introduce and welcome the leaders of the two great organizations bringing this together today. The first of which is Alma McLemore. Would you come share a few words, please, Alma, the African American Heritage Society?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is such a special day. It's Black History Month, but every day is Black History Day, Black History Month. It's not a one-month thing, but we talked about this, Tyrus and I, and we said we wanted to do something together, the Heritage Foundation and the African American Heritage Society. So this day is because of the joint efforts of the Heritage Foundation and the African American Heritage Society. So we're grateful to everybody for being here. You get to hear some stories from some awesome leaders in the community who have done so much in Williamson County and Franklin. And I am just so proud to be part of this effort today. And thank you all so much for coming early. A lot of people don't get up that early, but we're grateful that you all are here today, and thank you so much. Thank you.
And also I'm going to bring to the stage briefly Barry Beasley, the president and CEO of the Heritage Foundation of Williamson County. She's a little under the weather, but thank you, Barry, for coming in this morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad to see you. Now, it's 2024, so I have to say this. I have a negative COVID test, so don't worry, and I will stay in the corner. It's very important, but it was very important for me to be here today. I feel maybe because I'm a little under the weather, a little weepy, but I'm so happy that this is happening today. I'm so happy that we're here together. And the past year and 10 months as we've worked on this building, and I hope all of you will take time to go through every room, the experience room downstairs, kind of follow the journey of every room through the building. I hope that as you do that, you will see the vision of what we've had for this year and 10 months. And it's to celebrate all of our history from indigenous people to modern day, to tell the stories of our community that matter so much. Actually, this room, when it's not set up for an event, tells a great preservation story, and a lot of you in the room have been leaders and giants in the preservation movement in Franklin and Williamson County. So hope you'll come back even when this room is put together. I want to say this. Sharing Black history is not just important in Black History Month, it's important every month. And I'm so happy that we're here together, and I hope this is the beginning of maybe a series of work that we can do together, African American Heritage Society and the Heritage Foundation. And this place was through the dreaming created for moments like this, not just for tourists and locals to come in and experience it set up as a history center, but also for us to move things out of rooms like this and to have dialogue and to have incredible speakers and to share. And so I'm very proud to say, I was thinking about this on the drive up here today. This is the very first program since we've opened this building. So we can always remember we have a first today, which is great. One other just thing I want to say before I conclude is I want to thank Tyrus. The backstory with Tyrus is that about a little over 20 years ago, how can we be that old? We were in graduate school together at Alabama, and we had a conversation and said, it'd be awesome if someday we could work together. Well, here we are in 2024, and we're working together, and I'm so glad that he said yes to starting this journey of being a part of the leadership team for the Heritage Foundation. And I know we're going to continue to do so many great things together, Tyrus, with your leadership, and I'm so excited. So anyway, I'll kind of stand in the corner, put a mask on, be away from everybody, but I just had to take a moment to say thank you, and thank you to our speakers. I'm so glad all of you are here today. I hope you have a great time.
Thank you, Barry. Now we can get to the real treat. I'll give a quick introduction here because I want to give the speakers the majority of our time. That's why we're here. But Ms. Sherry Booker Reynolds is the 10th of 12 children born to Mary Pope Booker and Monroe Booker of Franklin, Tennessee. She's been a respiratory therapist for the last 36 years and a member of the first graduating class of respiratory therapists in the School of Allied Health at Tennessee State University. She's taught for many years as an adjunct professor. She has a bachelor's degree from Fisk and a master's degree from Tennessee State University. That's not Alabama State, but I'm not going to hold that against you. So without further ado, Ms. Sherry Booker Reynolds.
Can I be heard without a microphone, or do I need to turn this on? Turn it on. Is it on? Okay. I'm here to share about my family, the Booker family of Franklin. My parents are Mary Pope Booker and Monroe Booker, but I would be remiss if I didn't first share about my maternal family, the Popes. The Popes share a proud legacy of agriculture and farming. My fourth generation grandmother, Patience Pope, was brought to Tennessee from North Carolina in 1811 as an enslaved person. She had 7 children, all of whom were freed from slavery in 1829. Her grandson, Osborne Pope, was the first in our family to buy land. He purchased a 20-acre parcel on September 4th, 1882. At his death, he left the property to his grandchildren, one of whom was my grandfather, Joseph Pope. My grandfather left the land to his children, and my mother left the land to her children. My twin daughters are the 8th generation in our family to live in the Burwood-Thompson Station area, and much of the 20-acre parcel has remained in our family for nearly 150 years. I got some cousins here that are Popes. Maurice is on the second row. And his wife, Evelyn. And I think that's it. If anybody else, any other Popes are here, you raise your hand. I don't want to overlook you. I'm getting to you. I'm coming to you. Now, for the Booker family. The Booker family moved to Franklin in 1920. My grandfather, William Garfield Booker, was a minister and timber contractor, and my grandmother, Hattie Witherspoon Booker, was a substitute teacher and homemaker. They came to Franklin from Lewis County, near Hohenwald, Tennessee, with their 11 children, the 10th of whom was my father, Monroe. Now, of those 11 children that my grandparents moved to Franklin with, only one survives. Her name is Mary Booker Jones. She lives in Columbia, Tennessee. She just celebrated her 108th birthday last month. And And she is the oldest living person in Murray County, so at 108. And my father, Monroe Booker, he attended Franklin Training School from grades 1 through 12 and graduated in 1940. He was drafted into the U.S. Army Air Force in 1942 and was stationed mainly in the South Pacific. Monroe was honorably discharged in 1945. He returned to Franklin and started Booker Brothers Service Station in May of 1946 with his brother William. And he remained in business for 50 plus years at the same location. Most of y'all probably remember over on West Main Street. Monroe married Mary Pope on May 27th, 1950, and settled into the family house at 1508 West Main Street in Franklin. They raised 12 children there, all of whom graduated from college. And their names, Claudia, Charlotte, Janet, Gwen, Cyrus, Linda, Brenda, Robert, Joe, Sherry, Karen, and Barry. So, now, in case you missed that, I can do it again. But their names are Claudia, Charlotte, Janet, Gwen, Cyrus, Linda, Brenda, Robert, Joe, Sherry, Karen, and Barry. My sister Charlotte is here, and she raised her hand when I was talking about the popes, but that's the second oldest, Charlotte. Those 12 graduated from college. 1 graduated from Harvard, 2 graduated from Vanderbilt, 6 from Fisk University, 1 each from Tennessee State University, Spelman College, and Concordia College. My parents garnered quite a bit of notoriety for this feat, including articles in Jet magazine, feature stories on ESPN, Mrs. Booker being named Mother of the Year here in Franklin, and even a letter of congratulations from former President George H.W. Bush. The 12 have owned 7 businesses over the years, 4 of which remain in operation today. They have various careers. 2 are attorneys, 1 is a CPA, 1 is a civil engineer, 1 is a statistical analyst, 1 is a respiratory therapist, that's me, 1 is a director of finance, 1 head basketball coach, 1 retired teacher, and 1 who's self-employed. Claudia is the oldest, and she retired from a 30-year career as a social worker. And Gwen was a former TV news reporter. Claudia and Gwen are both deceased. So, my dad, Monroe, was a tremendous advocate for affordable housing, which was segregated at the time and very limited here in Franklin. He was a member of a company, JMP&B Company, which built affordable housing in Rolling Meadow subdivision in the 1960s. In 1969, Monroe started Book Trailer Park on West Main Street, which provided starter homes for many young Franklin residents. The 12 of us took over operation of the park after our parents' deaths and operated it until it was sold in 2020. Lastly, Monroe authored a book of prose and poetry. It was called Thoughts from the Coffee Table. It was published in 1995 and received recognition from many local citizens and even former President Bill Clinton. Mary Pope Booker passed away September 5th, 2004, and Monroe Booker passed away February 12th, 2006. My parents left us with a strong legacy of education and leadership, and we continue to honor them through the Monroe and Mary Booker Scholarship, which has been awarded to an 8th grade student at Freedom Middle School since 2007, and a Community Service Award to an outstanding community member. And we awarded the scholarship just last Friday. Alma was the Community Award winner, recipient rather, for this year. And Madison Scales, if any of you happen to know that family, she was the 8th grade winner. I'm grateful that my parents made a difference in the Franklin community and thankful that their legacy continues to influence the lives of young people. That's all I have.
We're putting up a marker in honor of your grandfather and his brother, Lester.
All right. Thank you for sharing. I give a quick, thank you. Quick introduction to our next speaker, Pastor Hewitt Sawyers. His bio was long. I could read it all day, so I'll just give you a couple of highlights. He's pastor of the West Harpeth Primitive Baptist Church. He was born and reared right here in Williamson County in College Grove. He lived throughout his childhood. He's one of 4 children born to the late Clifton and Lena Pearl Sawyers. Pastor Hewitt was one of 3 local pastors who worked with city officials to present the idea of the Fuller Story Initiative to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. He's currently enrolled in a master's doctoral program at Trinity College of the Bible and Theological Seminary. Our pleasure to host you today, Pastor Hewitt Sawyers.
So, okay. Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to come and share. I told Tyrus that it's a dangerous thing to give a Baptist preacher a microphone. But anyway. But I do appreciate the invitation to come and share with you today. I have lived within 50 miles of Nashville all my life. I was born in College Grove, and my parents were both born in this county. Where I was born in College Grove, I was about a good strong rock throw from the College Grove Elementary and High School. But of course, that was during the time of segregation, and I was unable to go to the College Grove Elementary and High School because of segregation. So I had to catch the bus at about 6 o'clock in the morning to be bused to Kirkland School and then on to Franklin for high school. I went to Natchez High School, which is now the Claiborne Hughes nursing home, and that's where I went to high school there. There were a lot of things that went on during the time that I was a teenager. Many of you know that are, let's say, over 60 years old, that went on in the Franklin-Williamson County area during the time of segregation. The theater that we have such a lovely building now was not quite as lovely during that time. When we went to the theater, we had to go to the balcony of the theater if you were a person of color. Don't let anybody know, but we had the best seats in the balcony. And Another thing that was kind of demoralizing is that for a 10 or 12-year-old boy having to go into the courthouse, and that's the historic courthouse now, not the new one, but when you went into the courthouse, and we came to Franklin from College Grove every week, whether you needed to or not, you just came to town. And when you walked into the courthouse, there was signs saying colored water fountains and colored bathrooms, and they were prominently marked. And you had to go to those colored water fountains or colored bathrooms. And I remember it very vividly that they were on the right-hand side as you went into the courthouse, and on the right-hand side outside as you went into the basement for the bathrooms. And not only that, but even if you wanted something to eat in a restaurant, many of you probably, if you're a younger person, may not pay any attention to the alleys that run behind the stores on Main Street. But those alleyways there, you would go in those alleyways and knock on the back of the door of a restaurant, and you would make your order there, and they would bring the food to the back door of the restaurant. You'd pay them through the back door, and you'd get your food that way. You could not go into the restaurant and sit down and eat your food. Same thing with dairy. They had windows that you would buy your ice cream out of, and they would hand it out through a window. You would not be able to buy your ice cream and go in and sit down and eat it. Those kind of things went on in Franklin during the time that I was growing up, but you kind of got to the place where you accepted those kind of things because that was the way life was. But one of the most demoralizing things that happened that I felt put down with is that when it came time to purchase new school books, you would buy new school books, and the new school books would go to Franklin High. And the books that Franklin High had used would come over to Natchez with torn pages out of them, and we would get maybe 1 or 2 beakers or test tubes or something like that, and all of the new stuff would go to Franklin High. And we would get just a smattering of things in our school. That was demoralizing, that we would not get what we needed to get. Those kind of things went on during that time. So one of the most interesting things that I observed as I was growing up, or after I'd grown up, I should say, is that my grandson was in school, and they had Grandparents' Day. And I went there for Grandparents' Day, and we were supposed to speak. And we had this class there, and it was in the class, and the focus was we were supposed to tell them how it was different when we were in elementary school than the difference than when he was in elementary school. And I told them some of the same things I'm telling you now. And the kids came up to me and said, "Is that right? Was it really like that? You mean you tell me you couldn't go to school with white folks?" And I said, "No, I couldn't." But that wasn't the thing that shocked me the most. Their parents came up to me. These were 30-something-year-old parents, and asked me if I was lying. They literally didn't believe that I was telling the truth. And that bothered me, because this thing of not being able to tell things and put things in history books, they didn't know that went on. it bothered me that they did not know that that was literally history. Well, anyway, let me move on. I want to spend just a moment or two on the fuller story. God blessed me and 3 other persons in Williamson County to deal with something that just kind of dropped in our laps. Many of you may remember Charlottesville, Virginia, and what went on there regarding the movement of statutes regarding the Civil War. And when there was the Ku Klux Klan was angry about the movement of statutes that dealt with the Civil War there were almost riots and all other kind of things going on there. Well, there was some talk here, this was in 2017, about some riots and things like that going on here in Franklin. Well, this information began to be talked about that there was going to be some type of a riot or what have you on the square here in Franklin. Some of that information got to some of the ministers here in Franklin, and they went down to the square to find out what was going on. Well, there wasn't a riot that was going to happen, but as a result of it, Kevin Riggs, a local pastor here, went down, and Elder John Haynes went down and began to see what was happening, and they got some news people to talk about what was happening, and when they did, they got their names in the paper. And Kevin Riggs was saying, or was misquoted really, saying that he felt like that Chip, the tall statue there on the square, needed to come down. Well, he got some very unfavorable press. And so he got some people calling him and threatening him and some other things going on. And when it was finished, he got a call from Eric Jacobson, who is the executive director of the Franklin Battlefield Trust. And he said, let me talk to you about this. And so he did. And so he says, something needs to be done. Maybe the chip doesn't need to come down. And let me talk to you about another approach to it. And so Kevin says, well, I don't need to talk about this. This is maybe more of a black issue than it is 2 white boys. So he gave Eric my name and Chris Williamson's name. Eric called me, and I went out to his office, and we sat down, and quite frankly, we had a heart-to-heart talk, because I felt like Chip needed to come down too. Every time we came to Franklin, coming in on 96, that's all I saw was Chip. And I got to thinking about those beakers. I got to thinking about those colored signs. I got to thinking about having to go to the balcony. It bothered me. But as I talked to Eric said that you can't erase history. History is going to be history regardless of what you do. And after we talked for about 2 hours, he finally drilled it into my head that you can't erase history. No matter what you do, you can't you can't erase it. But you can do something to edify, explain it, have an impact upon it. And finally, it dawned on me as we talked further that we can do something to give a greater, a more explainable impact upon what history needs to be. He talked, as I hurry on, he talked to me, he talked to Chris Williamson, and he talked to Kevin Riggs. We all sat down, and I tell you, all of us had to, kind of a wipe up the floor discussion, because we couldn't all see eye to eye. But when we came out of, each one of us talked with him separately. And I told him he needed to be the preacher. All of us had been a preacher. He's not a preacher. And all of us have been pastors for years. And when we finally came together, we agreed that Chip didn't need to come down. We needed to explain Chip. And in explaining Chip, we decided that we needed to go to the city. And we went to the city and asked the city manager and the mayor, could we put something out on the city square that would explain what has gone on in this city? We needed to talk about that there were race riots in Franklin. We needed to put something out on the city square that talked about that slaves were sold right here on the city square in Franklin. Nobody knows about that. Excuse me, I didn't mean to preach. But nobody knows about that. Everybody thinks about the battlefield and we fight wars here, but nobody knows what started all of this kind of stuff. Slaves were sold right there in front of Mella Mess Room. We need to carry our baggage. So we got it done. The mayor and the city manager agreed to work with us. And as we worked with them, the board of mayor and aldermen worked with us. Well, wouldn't you know it? The daughters of the Confederacy decided that they were going to stop us. So they said they owned the city square and we couldn't do it. Well, they stopped us for a while, but then look at the board of mayor and aldermen. They decided to, well, if you all going to stop us, we're going to file suit against you. It was settled that they only owned the ground that Chip sat on. The rest of the square belonged to the city. And so it was that we were able to put the markers around the square. And then the city said, well, we're going to let you put up something that we had proposed to them was a statue of a USCT, a Confederate black soldier statue. See, nobody thinks about that there were black Union soldiers. I didn't mean to say Confederate. Wipe that out. Union soldiers that fought in that war. These Union soldiers could have been caught and killed, but they were willing to go out there and fight for their own freedom. So we thought that we needed to put a statue out there on the square. And two things that we wanted to do. We wanted him to be life-size so people could come up and look him right in the face. We didn't want him 100 feet in the air. And we wanted him to look right at Chip. If you haven't seen him, go look at him. Go look at him. That's where he is. I need to stop. My time is up. But that's where he is. November 2021. He was dedicated. The square was filled with people from everywhere. We had people from the home of the Ku Klux Klan in Pulaski, Tennessee, who were asking questions, how can we get that done in Pulaski, Tennessee? Thank you for my time.
Thank you, Pastor Sawyers, for sharing that unique and inside perspective. And I think it speaks to the power of dialogue and the power of moving things and working together. So that's greatly appreciated. And last but not least, we have Dr. Katie Kennard White. She's the second of 9 children born to a sharecropper tenant farmer and his wife in Williamson County near Franklin. She graduated at age 16 as class valedictorian from Franklin Training School. She has a host of accolades and achievements. She's been listed in several issues of Ebony magazine as one of the most 100 influential Black Americans. She was honored at the Salute Award banquet in 1989. She's also listed in an edition of Outstanding Young Women of America, long storied history, a legend, Dr. Katie Kennard White.
I'll be 92, so I can't sit too long. If you all don't mind, I'll stand just a little while. You know, somebody got up and talking about they had a negative test, and you said, well, okay, she got that. Did she have it? No, I live at a retirement center, and they advised us after last week, a few situations broke out to when you leave, wear a mask. So I don't have it. Who the lady? But anyway, I have a mask, but I don't have COVID. And one of the things that I want to say to you is that I don't consider myself famous, not at all. I might be an accident, and maybe not an accident. But I am here, and I am Katie Kennard White, one of 9 children. Not 12, is that what it was? And you can call the name of all of, well, no, it wasn't 12, it was just 9. And y'all went from Harvard to somewhere else. No, we didn't go to Harvard. All 9 of us went to Tennessee State University, because that's as far as we could afford to go. And of course, most of the time, you know, when you don't have any money, you go where you can go, and then that's it. But I did want, he said something about giving a microphone to a preacher. Do you ever remember teachers? I bet you remember a teacher before you remember a preacher, where they can talk to you. So really, I've probably taken up all my time, because when I was in high school, and that was here in Franklin, it wasn't Franklin High School, it wasn't Natchez High School, but it was that old Franklin Training School for Black folks only. Okay, I think they got the idea that blacks couldn't learn. We weren't supposed to learn. We weren't even admitted to go into school, not even elementary school. But you know, they had the training in there, and training, oh, yeah, they can't learn, but we can train them like you train horses and dogs. So, but anyway, and then when I started teaching, I was teaching at a training school, Bedford County Training School. They were all over the South, training schools for us, because we weren't permitted to go to the other schools, and they were educators, but we could be trained. Well, at least we had a school. At least we had a school. When I was 5, and that was kindergarten age, back then they called it primer, I lived on Hillsborough Road around Berry's Chapel. And up maybe a fourth of a half a mile from there was Perman Elementary School. And then that was south. And then north of there was Grassland, and they were schools for white children. I was black. There were no schools in walking distance from our house, so to get to go to school, I had to be carried to my grandmother's house way out toward Leapers Fork, and go there on Sunday evening. My dad would drive my sister and myself, and we would spend the week with my grandmother so we could walk to Perkins School for first grade or kindergarten or whatever. And my dad would come back and get us on Friday afternoon. Sometimes he'd come noonday, and the teacher would know, get that classes taught before he comes to pick these 2 kids up, because we were the only, okay, well, enough of that. Anyway, we do that, and that's how I got to elementary school. My dad asked the superintendent something about, they closed Perman School because, I don't know what, but anyway, it was white school and they closed it. And my dad said, well, we live close enough there. Maybe we can get that open, and my kids and others around here. Now, the superintendent couldn't even hear about that, so it didn't open. So when I got ready to go to high school, I think I was 12, I've forgotten. But anyway, I got ready to go to high school, and the only way we could get to high school, because we lived way out at Berry's Chapel, and no such thing as walking on Highway 431 to Franklin Training School. So we had to ride a bus. At that time, there was an interurban bus. And I think every now and then there was a Greyhound that went Franklin Road, but every now and then one would come Hillsborough Road. Well, anyway, make a long story short, we had to pay. Somehow I got in the grade with my sister. I think the teacher said at Christmas when I was in kindergarten, I had gotten all the skills for that, and they put me in the grade with my sister, who was a little bit older. So we stayed together all the way through. So we were getting ready to go to high school, so we had to pay to ride the Franklin interurban bus back and forth to school. And then once we got here, of course, we had to walk to Franklin Training School. And that bus station, he's talking about all that stuff. Yeah, I used to buy them bus tickets through them little windows, and go over here and sit in this little black area. Now, it wasn't in the same room, because white folks was over there, and then the office, and then black folks over here in this little hole. You could hardly find it, but we found it when we needed to sit. But anyway, to make a long story short, when time came for us to, well, we were in high school, my dad went to the superintendent. And I'm not going to call his name, but I know it really, really well. But my dad went to the superintendent and said, my children are having to pay to go to high school. And so he said, pay to go to high school? Yeah, we have to pay because we have to ride a bus to get there. And by that time, there were some school buses for white children. And my kids can't ride that bus. It comes right by them, but passes them up. They can't ride the bus. So he said, what about getting a bus for black children so they too can go to school? Superintendent said to me, and my dad's name was Arthur. He said, Arthur, black folks don't want no school bus. If they wanted a school, well, he didn't use the word black then, you know what he used, the N-word. They don't want no school bus. If they wanted a school bus, they'd buy one. If they buy one, then the city, county, whatever, would give them another one. Well, that's a hard task for these poor folks. Blacks ain't got no money, never did have any. Everything was taken from black folks when they came over here, even their name. I can't even claim my name because it was taken from me. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, my dad went back to this PTA, black PTA, Franklin Training School, told the story, the people got the message, all the people started making oh, can you black folks buy a bus? We can try. Anyway, to make a long story short, they went back and all the people, black folks in the community, I think they even got some donations from some white folks because I think they wanted to make a donation to that bus so they'll stay off of our bus. Anyway, to make a long story short, the black PTA, along with the citizens, and Dr. C.C. Johnson was upstanding. He was a doctor, had money. And the mortician, Mr. Patton, he happened to be a cousin of my mother's. Anyway, they made considerable contribution. My dad gave $50, which was nothing. But back then, $50 was a lot of money. And anyway, a lot of other citizens gave money. And guess what? We bought the bus and bought the first bus for black kids in Williamson County, Tennessee. Whether you believe it or not, it was bought by black folks. And then we got one more bus. But still, by the time I got ready to go to college, I still didn't get to ride the bus because I had graduated by the time they got the bus. So my sisters and brothers, some of them, had a chance to ride that bus, but I didn't get a chance to ride the bus. And if I rode the interurban where we did ride a bus, guess what? We had to sit on the back seat. We couldn't sit where other folks sat. You had to sit on the back seat or stand. Enough of that about them buses now. Listen, I was not a freedom rider, and I didn't ride the bus down south, but I was a boycotter that you could not believe. When we said boycott, and we boycotted them things down in Nashville, they didn't worry about boycotting in Franklin. It was so small and other places that it didn't matter, but the big cities were afraid of boycotts. I was a staunch boycott. Oh, one of my friends and I, when we were in college, I've got to sit down from here. But one friend, when we were in college, and I knew the story, but the two of us, Dorothy Sparkman, and bless her soul, she's gone on to heaven, but we were waiting to catch a bus to come back to school. I was going to college, so I had to ride from Barry's Chapel down to Nashville until we figured out a way we could stay in Nashville. But anyway, we decided we were going, while we were waiting on the bus, we just walking around in the stores, you know, kids. And so we saw these fountains, had seen them all of our lives. Black, we was colored and white. And we said to each other, let's go ask them what that means. Because we act like we stupid, we don't know, and they say they black folks ain't got no sense no way. So anyway, we went up and we said, we saw some fountains out there, and one said colored and one said white. What is this all about? What does it mean? Well, the clerk, she thought we were stupid. And she thought we really needed to understand what they were. So she was explaining that fountain that says colored is for colored people, and the one that says white is for white people, something anyway, colored and white. And we looked at her and we said, we ain't never had no colored water, and if we drink colored water, it'll probably make us sick. So we went on to the fountain. ran over and drank out of the white fountain and took off. They haven't caught us yet because we could outrun them, and they ain't caught us yet. Well, anyway, let's leave that alone. I'm listening to this young lady's family. The last name was Booker. And one of my dad's friends when we were growing up was named Booker, and I said, did they want to have a filling station? And she said, yeah. So my dad knew Mr. Booker anyway. I think it was you, might have been your granddad. But anyway, he knew him. So there's a lot of relevance in terms of black families in Franklin. In fact, we told our pastor one time when he came to pastor, better watch what you say about people in this church because you might be talking to kinfolks. And that gets to be the case in many instances. But let me rush it. Oh, she could name all them children. You know, every last one. My mom and daddy used to get them mixed up, but they called every name before they got to. Well, we didn't learn each other's names like that, but they taught us a lot of things. You would be amazed at what black parents taught kids when they were coming up because we weren't going to get it much in. They taught us, all 9 of us, and my mother and dad, can say the alphabet backwards. Z-Y-X-W-V-U-T, S-R-Q-P-O-N, M-L-K-J-I-H-G-F-E-D-C-B-A. So they taught us, so when we went to school, we knew how to count, we knew how to say the alphabet, we knew our colors and some of the shapes. We could tell a triangle from a circle, from a square, from a rectangle. Well, my mom and dad taught us. My dad got to the 5th grade, had to drop out and help he was the oldest boy in the family. He had to help out with the family. My mom got to the 8th grade. Well, neither one of them graduated, but after all of us got out of college, my mom and dad went back to adult night school and got the 8th grade certificate. So things were tough back then. And I want you to know that there was once a George Kennard grocery in Franklin on Natchez Street. That's one of my dad's cousins. And we didn't have anything. Did you know that a sharecropper is just one half step from slavery? Did you know that? My dad was a sharecropper all of his life. He raised tobacco everywhere, but he was a sharecropper. Well, anyway, there were a whole lot of things that we didn't have. We learned to make do, make soup without a soup bone, make clothing without cloth because they took sugar sacks and flour sacks, because at that time they sold sugar and flour in cloth sacks, unrip them and hammer sew them together to make your underclothes and sometimes your top clothes because you didn't have any. I went to college. My dad wouldn't let me go. I was wanting to go to, I think it was Springfield, to the New Homemakers of America meeting, and the teacher was going to take maybe 4 or 5 girls, and I was going to be one, but I wasn't going to meet them at Franklin Training School because they had to come Hillsborough Road to get where they were going, so I was going to get with them there. My dad had gone to work, and I was standing there waiting on them to come back, to come out of Franklin and pick me up. My dad came by there, and what are you? I said, well, I'm going to New Hope. And then he said, it was snowing. He said, in this snow? And I'm thinking, what difference does it make? You know, I go in all kind of other weather. So my dad said, he knew that I had cardboard in my shoes. He knew he could not afford to buy shoes for all of us. So I had cardboard in my shoes, and my dad said, no, you go on back up to the house there. You're not going because you might get pneumonia if you stay at that place all day with these, well, we called them shoes, but it was cardboard in the bottom of the shoe. So I never got to, my teacher was going to run me for president of the Regional New Homemakers of America because she said I could win. And she wanted the school to win, but I didn't get to go, so I didn't get to win. So the New Homemakers of America situation, where I was supposed to be the president, I thought. Well, anyway, I didn't get to be the president. But later on in life, by staying in school and doing what you naturally need to do in order to get ahead, what are you talking about, them books that came with them white folks' names in them? And the first 5 pages, oh yeah, the first 5 pages. When I taught in Chapelville, same thing happened. I was teaching out of books that, they were old books and all these children. Well, it was the same thing. And it was the deal that everything new went to. We were taught that. Would you believe that when we were young, we couldn't go to the front door of white folks' houses? We had to go to the back door and down the alley and up the back steps to the movie. Oh yeah, that's why when I was in high school, I don't ever remember going to the movie down here in Franklin. They showed a movie on Fridays at school, and if you had a nickel, you could go and look at it. And every now and then I got a chance to go to a movie. And I know my time is up. I need to sit. Oh yeah, I need to sit down. But what I want you to know is when I came to Franklin, to high school, I couldn't go in the library. Only time you found folks on the lawn of the library, they were either cutting grass or raking leaves. That's all they could do. Couldn't get any books. When I was in elementary school, we didn't have any library books and couldn't go to the library here in Franklin, but the teacher could drive up to the back of the library here in Franklin, open her trunk, and white folks would put her in 2 or 3 dozen of books that they wanted her to have. She'd take them back to the school and put them on a table in the back of the room. We call it a library table, but the books were due back in 2 or 3 weeks, so we had to read fast, and I tried to read every book that they would bring out there. Well, I couldn't read every book, but I do remember at least we had books. At least we had few books other than a textbook. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's not the half of, oh yeah, I did want to tell you that. I didn't get to be president of the New Homemakers of America, but in later life I continued, and somehow I got elected president of the Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, which is an international organization. And I served as vice president for 4 years and president for 4 years. So I did get to be a president, even if I didn't know what I was doing. They thought I knew. A lot of times people think you know stuff you don't know, but you pretend you know and just march on. But I'm not where I am because of me. I had a lot of support from a lot of places, including some of y'all in here, and you may not have even known it. But if you sit and listen to an individual, you are supporting that individual. Whether you know it or not, you are helping them out. So some of you say, well, yes, you have done something. You're sitting right out there right now, and that's support. But I had teachers, and I had principals, and I had preachers, and I had deacons and relatives who supported me. I couldn't move a bit without the help of the individuals that are around you, and they will support you even just by showing up. Now, talk about Chip. Oh, yeah, I know about Chip. He's been standing on that square ever since I've been in the world, and come Wednesday or Thursday, I'll be 92. So he's been there a long time. And guess what? My great-grandfather, Richard Smith, was sold to Turner Smith right here in Franklin on that square. So I know a little bit about Chip and how, didn't they drop him when they were trying to put him up? And Chip, all right. He needed to been dropped. And I'm gonna sit down. I know it's time to sit down. Hey, let me tell you what they said. When my high school teacher said, when you get up to talk, be brief, be seen, and be gone. And I'm gone.
Oh my goodness. Dr. White, Alma told me that you would be a treat, and you did not disappoint. I just want to say it means a lot, I think, for you to have lived and experienced everything you have, and to stand up here with so much energy and so much gusto, and with a smile on your face, still not broken. So let's give her a hand for that. Thank you so much. And I do have to say, upstairs in this room, there is a booth where you can record your oral histories. We're going to get you in that booth, and you can go all week if you want to. So remember that. You can go all week. We're going to record everything. So it's 10:02. Fortunately, this is only half of our program. We're a little over, so Q&A, you have to catch us at the next session for a little Q&A, but this is only half of our program. The second half, as we continue sharing and preserving stories, will take place at the historic Macklemore House. So what we're about to do is head downstairs now. We have transportation waiting for our first 15 people. So who's going over to Macklemore House? Okay, start making your way downstairs now, and we'll load up the transport and get over. So thank you, everybody. Oh, come on, one second.
Before you all go, we have something we'd like to present to the speakers. They were amazing, weren't they? Give them another hand, one more time. And also, we're going to be really, really quick, but Dr. White has written a book also, and you can go on Amazon and get that. So you heard a little today, but if you get her book, you'll get to see some, or read about some more. But at this time, if Miss Thelma Bell want to come up, we want to give her book to our esteemed guests and speakers. You all were just absolutely amazing. And think about how much people didn't know that they heard today from you all. So you are a true blessing, and we're so grateful on behalf of the African American Heritage Society and the Heritage Foundation. And we do have some board members here who will, if you want to raise your hand. And we have the founders, Rick Warwick and Mary and Thelma Battle, if y'all want to. They were the founders of the organization, so we're grateful to have them. And do y'all have anything you want to say? I know we've got to be quick. And you can autograph it later. We're going to present it to them.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here today and listen to dynamic words of these fine people here. It is so awesome to listen to the experiences. I'm so filled up from just being a part of what has taken place here. I have written a book called Natchez Street Revisited Volume 3. And it's about the homecoming queens, the majorettes, drum majors, and band directors of the old Franklin Training School and Natchez High School. This book has about 350 pages. In it, I have dedicated this book to Dr. Katie White Kennard, who has she has impressed me for a number of years. As you can see, this is her photograph in the introduction. Dr. White.
Carol. I appreciate this so very much. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Okay.
Also, to listen, share the book like explaining to have them as well, and they're supposed to be able to photograph these when you are U.S. sugar. There, it's like that. I could, well, Brendan's Galley's at Mountain View, Guam, on PBS, says, well, all of these great people, the top ends there, and traces. And climbers. Is one. That's just so full of luck to be able to something. So you can leave it to me. There's what they to stand in. Yeah. I hope you all with chin bars. But so they can, yes, family so I to make it excellent children. It allows this and kind of like the convert the art for the is what please. Since the early 1990s, they found us for track and the fight to start to repent of this issue. Yeah, that's the stuff that sometimes Williamson and I appreciate all that he has done to help as well as Mayor Pierce, allowing for the former board members of the African American Heritage Society. I'm not able to do what I would like to do, but I'm doing what God allows me to do, and I'm going to keep going.
Until I can't go no more.
Thank you all again. And again, thank Mary and Rick. You all have anything you want to say? They're the founders. They're the reason we have the Macklemore House Museum, the founders of the organization. So thank you all so very much. And I'll let Tyrus close it out.
Thank you all once again for coming out and being part of this, sharing your attention as we heard these wonderful stories today. Like I said, the day is going to continue over at the Macklemore House. So if you please make your way downstairs to the front, we'll board the first group on the trolley and head over for our second treat. So thank you all.